She had been in labor for 6 days, not 6 hours, not one night, 6 full days of pain. The doctors had checked everything. They said the baby is fine. They said the mother is strong, but still, the baby refused to come out. On the 3rd day, they called the elders. On the 4th day, they called the herbalist. By the 5th day, even the herbalist was afraid. He stood in the middle of the room, looked at everyone, and began to weep. He said, "I cannot help this woman. This is not sickness. This is not medicine." Then he pointed at her stomach and whispered, "This child is refusing to be born into a house full of lies." That night, the baby spoke. But before we go back to how it all began, pause for a moment. Like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know who is sitting with me for this story. In the quiet outskirts of a wealthy town, there stood a large compound that people spoke about with both admiration and caution. It belonged to a man named Balogun. Balogun was not just rich, he was respected. The kind of man elders greeted first, the kind of man whose words carried weight in the village council. His house was always clean, always busy, always full of life. But behind the tall gates and painted walls, not everything was peaceful. 2 years ago, Balogun's first wife, Titi, had died suddenly. They said it was illness, a strange one, fast and unforgiving. Before anyone could understand what was happening, she was gone. She left behind 2 children, a boy and a girl, both still very young. Since then, the compound had never truly felt whole again. After a long period of mourning, Balogun remarried. Her name was Fumi. Fumi was young, gentle, and kind-hearted. She had loved Balogun before he even noticed her. When he finally chose her as his wife, she stepped into the home with humility, determined to care for him and his children. She tried. She truly did. She cooked for the children, spoke to them softly, gave them space when they needed it. But children are not fools. They remembered their mother. And though they were polite, there was always a quiet distance in their eyes. Watching everything was Mama Balogun, Balogun's mother. She was a woman no one argued with, always dressed neatly, always composed, always in control. Even when she said nothing, her presence filled the room. In that house, everyone knew one truth. Mama Balogun was the real authority. Fumi respected her, feared her a little too, but she did her best to be a good daughter-in-law. Time passed, and soon, good news came. Fumi was pregnant. The entire compound celebrated. Even Mama Balogun smiled more often. It felt like joy had finally returned to the house. But sometimes, joy hides things, and sometimes it sits on top of secrets. Now, the day had come. Or rather, it had come and refused to go. Fumi had been in labor for 6 days. 6 long, painful, exhausting days. Her body was tired. Her voice was weak from screaming. Her strength was leaving her little by little. The midwives tried everything. The doctors came and went. They checked the baby. They said it is healthy. They checked Fumi. They said she is strong. So why was the baby not coming? On the 3rd day, whispers began. On the 4th day, fear entered the compound. By the 5th day, even the strongest hearts began to shake. That was when they called the herbalist. He was an old man known for handling cases that had no explanation. If something had a spiritual cause, he would know. He arrived quietly, looked at Fumi,
closed his eyes, touched her stomach. Then he stepped back. Something in his face had changed. Everyone watched him, waiting, hoping. But what he said next made the air in the room turn cold. I cannot help this woman.